Good evening. This is your Blue Wave Report for February 6, 2019. I'm Dan Jennings. We start, as always, with our election watch. Arizona, February 11th, is the deadline to register to vote in the March 12th municipal elections. In Indiana, February 8th is the deadline to file a declaration of candidacy in towns that have a population of over 3,500 people. Michigan, on February 12th at 4 p.m., is your deadline to submit ballot proposals to your county and local clerks. Minnesota, you have numerous special elections coming up in the next week or so. On February 12th, in Houston County, Com 03, the cities of Clontarf, Richfield, and Evansville, and Dawson, Boyd, Worthington, and Russell, Tyler, Ruffton, you have school district special elections. Now, on to our legislative watch. Mississippi lawmakers have proposed new legislation that would ensure teachers cannot be disciplined if they refuse to respect a transgendered student's gender identity. This license to harass or discriminate is the first bill of its kind in the country. HB 1176 would update state law determining how school employees may be disciplined, adding specific language prohibiting their dismissal or suspension for referring to any individual student's immutable biological sex as objectively determined by anatomy and genetics at the time of birth. School employees would be barred from being disciplined despite the student's preference to identify as the opposite gender after undergoing stages of transition as a pansexual, transsexual, or transgender student, whether through sex reassignment, gender identity transitioning, hormonal therapy treatment, or other philosophical processes. The proposed measure also clarifies that schools cannot force an employee to comply with a directive to respect a student's identity if it violates that employee's sincerely held religious belief or moral conviction. And in Oklahoma, a bill that would make it illegal for teachers to walk out in protest has been put forth. But House Bill 2214 will not stop there. It would also permanently revoke certifications of teachers who break the rule, preventing them from ever teaching in the state again. Well, that's a good way to get rid of your teachers, I suppose. The bill's author, State Representative Todd Russ, said the main point is to make sure kids don't suffer disruption in their education. Here's a thought, Representative. Fund the schools, you won't have to worry about it. While illegal for teachers to strike in Oklahoma, they can stage walkouts, as they have done, and this bill is meant to stop them from doing so. In Alabama, a proposal to end the requirement for a permit to carry a concealed handgun will again be a topic for the legislature. Senator Gerald Allen, a Republican from Tuscaloosa, has filed a bill that would repeal the requirement for a permit. So basically, anybody can carry a gun. Allen's bill would not eliminate permits, but they would no longer be mandatory. So what's the sense? It's very important for us to maintain the idea that the Second Amendment was given to personally defend ourselves, our families, and our property, and not be required to pay a fee or a tax, Allen said. Actually, it was to keep a well-armed militia, but, whatever. The senator has sponsored the bill for several years. It passed the Senate in 2017 along party lines with strong support from Republicans and opposition from Democrats, but it died in the House. Well, let's hope it does so again and make some calls, people, because it needs to. Police and sheriffs have led opposition to the bill in previous years. That should tell you all you need to know, arguing that the requirement for a permit is an important law enforcement tool. This just in this afternoon, the Idaho Supreme Court upholds the Medicaid expansion that was voted for last year by people in Idaho, rejecting the Idaho Freedom Foundation's lawsuit attempting to overturn. And in California, the Lafayette Parish Library Director can think of many ways to use a $26 million pot of money that the system has spent years building up. Fixing roofs, hiring staff so the Milton Library branch can stay open on the weekends, even buying a bookmobile which could deliver books and other services to underserved areas of the community. These are just a few items that Teresa Elberson listed off during a Monday night library board meeting. The library board met to respond to a plan proposed in January by Lafayette Mayor/President Joel Robideau, which, according to some at the meeting, could derail the library's future plans for growth. In January, Robideau announced he wants to use $18 million of the library system's money to pay for road, bridge, and drainage projects. In other words, he wants to put it into the general fund. He previously has said that leaving the library with a healthy $8 million surplus would be good for fiscally prudent governance. Not so sure about that one. Robideau, who took office in 2016, is up for re-election this year. There it is. Lafayette City Parish Councilman Bruce Conk, who represents District 6, had this to say: "We'll solve drainage and roads. Do we need to pay attention to that? Absolutely. But the people of Lafayette Parish voted these property taxes in for a specific reason. The council can decide if and when the issue will be placed on a ballot and how the ballot language will read. Ultimately, it will be the voters who will have the final say in whether library funds will be transferred to the public works projects." In New York, State Senator Robert Jackson, a Democrat who represents Northern Manhattan, has kicked off a statewide tour of schools in Schenectady on Monday, citing the school's shared librarian, a dearth of computers, and limited access to the school's sensory room program as evidence of an underfunded school district. "It's not acceptable," Jackson said of the shared librarian. "Our kids need to learn how to read, know how to write, know how to do math, and how to work with each other." I'm from Schenectady, New York, and he's absolutely right. We are severely underfunded. Jackson joined Schenectady Schools Superintendent Larry Spring, citing school board members and community activists such as myself, arguing that students in Schenectady are not receiving the sound basic education promised under the state constitution. Assemblyman Phil Steck joined the tour, as did staffers from the offices of Senator Jim Tedisco and Assemblyman Angelo Santabarbara. Jackson, who was the lead plaintiff in the landmark lawsuit that established the Sound Basic Education standard, was elected to the state Senate last year and is now pushing lawmakers to boost school funding by more than $4 billion in the coming years, which would be of great help and also would fulfill the ruling of the courts that the state ignores. Finally tonight, a shout out to a great blog that we recently found, politicalcharge.org, which has many in-depth articles into how things in government run, as well as electoral calendar dates. Great work by this blog, a big thumbs up, and I hope you people go out to visit it. We will be using their information for stories in the future. Thank you to the following for stories used in tonight's report: theadvertiser.com, thinkprogress.org, cnn.com, thedailygazette.com, and al.com. For the Blue Wave Report, I'm Dan Jennings, reminding you,
don't just comment. Subscribe.
Good night, everybody.